I often tell practitioners, make a list of all the things you do in the day and then put a star beside the ones that you love doing. If you hate laundry and you hate meal prep, you can outsource for those things. And if you don't and you keep doing them because you think you are the only one that can do those and you are the best at it, you're going to burn out.
Welcome to Personalized by Vitamin Lab, the show where we dive deep into the world of personalization in healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. David Dizer. Please remember that the following discussion is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Speak with your healthcare practitioner first before integrating anything that you learned today. Join us as we explore the remarkable stories, breakthroughs, and possibilities that come with the pursuit of personalized healthcare. Welcome back to Personalized by Vitamin Lab. I'm your host, Dr. David Dizer. Thanks for joining our show. Today on the show, I spoke with Dr. Julie Durnan, the founder and clinic director of Restoration Health Clinic in North Vancouver, and the founder and CEO of Ginger Desk, the company my virtual assistant works for. Dr. Julie has 18 years of experience as a naturopathic physician working in private practice. She has a special interest in hormone health and pediatrics. Her clinic's in North Van. She has 10 practitioners on her team. She's an all-around rock star, both in clinical practice and as a CEO of a really cool organization. Dr. Julie's mentored hundreds of naturopathic doctors in practice management and teaches a master's class in practice management at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. Dr. Julie is a community builder and a fierce advocate for supporting professional women who want to build their careers, focus on their families, and make allied health more accessible for all. Please enjoy my chat with Dr. Julie Durnan. I'm here with Dr. Julie Durnan. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. David. Great to meet you here.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us on Personalized. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been meaning to have you on the show for a long time because you have such an interesting career, and we've got kind of two pathways going on this show. We've got individualized and personalized care, and we've got individualized and sort of unique personalized careers. And so I've got questions for you about both of these pathways, if that's okay.
It's totally okay. Shoot, I love it. I love that that's where we're headed, and I'm excited to hear your questions.
Sweet. We usually start with how did you get into integrative, functional, naturopathic medicine? I've read a few different bios that kind of illustrate your career, so I've got a sense, but I'd like to ask you about one component of one of the biographies I read. That's that after your undergraduate, you worked in air and water quality testing. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Okay. So when I first graduated, I graduated from the University of Guelph with a degree in environmental science. And my friends from university and I thought we'd take a trip out west for fun and ended up staying here and have for 24 years. So I got a job as an environmental consultant with a progressive environmental engineering firm. It was so fun. I loved my time there. And I got to test indoor air quality at contaminated schools and also in contaminated workplaces. So we were testing for asbestos, mold, even formaldehyde in newer builds.
Wow.
And it was during that time that I got to meet so many really, really sick people. And I was the technician. So I was literally in there turning my machine on, testing the air. I was counting asbestos fibers over a microscope. It was so interesting. But while I was doing that, while my machines were running, I was meeting folks in their own homes and meeting people in the schools and talking to them about their experience. And I started to learn firsthand that so many people were really sick from what was going on. And if they couldn't escape it, they couldn't get well. Mm-hmm. And so this was really my kind of breakthrough that I wanted to do more to help these people. And then I discovered naturopathic medicine and discovered that there was a system of healthcare that did look at toxins and contaminants and their impact on fertility and babies and kids and immune health. So I just became obsessed with naturopathic medicine. And then I went straight from that career right into ND school.
Wow.
And I haven't looked back.
That's so cool. And
Thank you.
What a unique experience. I haven't met anyone who's had that experience and entered our profession using that pathway. It's, especially interesting to me because my father-in-law passed away of mesothelioma. So he was exposed to asbestos when he was in his mid 30s or 40s and came down with the cancer when he was in his late 50s.
Wow.
And it's part of the reason why I got into this profession too. So I haven't heard anyone with that kind of history. It's interesting, my gosh. And it affects so many people. Now, in fact, Julie, my hometown tends to have high radon levels. This is a gas that comes from the ground that now the BC Lung Foundation is providing, selling meters to monitor, which I think is going to be the next wave in environmental testing. It's crazy out there.
It's crazy. And it's so interesting because folks think it's not related. I mean, we know now mesothelioma, like we've finally learned that the tragedy of that has been clearly implicated with the exposure to asbestos, just like cigarette smoke and lung cancer. But all of these other toxins, we're still learning how they impact our health. And people think that they're compartmentalized and it's just something separate from our other systems. But it, as you and I both know, like it impacts our health overall.
Absolutely. And this realm, like in complex chronic diseases, where a lot of naturopaths spend their time.
Yes.
So you found that when you were meeting these people that they really needed support, and that inspired you to go on.
I did. And I thought I would go into complex chronic disease, to be honest. I thought that's where I was headed. And I ended up treating fertility. I think it's funny how things go, but I just went with the flow and I started treating women who had PMS and who had period cramps. And then they started coming to me, letting me know that they were trying to conceive. And I started to put the pieces together and realize that their history of toxic exposure is possibly related to their troubles conceiving, their partner's low sperm count. And then I launched totally into fertility care. And then as all my patients started to have babies, I then started treating pediatrics.
Right.
So it was sort of just rolled with my lifetime.
I love it. I love it. You have this opportunity in our profession to think holistically and then niche down.
Totally. That's exactly it. Isn't that the fun thing? And you just never know. I think you just have to stay curious and stay inspired to keep learning, right? And our patients find us.
So can you tell me about that transition from school? I know you went to the Boucher Institute of Naturopathic Medicine, now called the Boucher campus of CCNM. That's correct.
Right. Yes.
Tell me about that transition from school to practice. Did you start out in very sort of broad in women's health and then niche down to fertility? What was that first couple of years like for you?
It was so long ago now. So I graduated in 2006, so 18 years ago. And I always knew I wanted to treat women's health. Came right out of school, so raring to go. And I knew I wanted to treat women on some level. That's all I knew. Women. Yeah. And so I did. I joined two men in practice. So Gurinder Dayal and Cam McIntyre were in practice at Lonsdale Naturopathic Clinic in North Vancouver. I was so excited to work with both of them. They were such inspirations to me. And I thought, well, what a great combo. I'm going to come in hot with women's care. And they were treating all the men. So it was such an awesome start to my career. I started out as an associate. And I just tested things out and started to see where folks needed help. And those two guided me so deeply. I was kind of casting a wide net at the time. And I was a new grad. And I was thinking like, where can I get business? Where can I show people how awesome I am at being a clinician? And that's when I launched an ad on allergies in my first year of graduating. And one of them said, so do you want to treat allergies? Is this really like what your zone of genius is? And I was like, well, no, not at all. It's just that it's spring and it's allergy season and I know it can help. And they were like, well, then don't advertise that. And it sounds so simple, but it was like this epiphany for me of like, you're right. I'm just going to put out there who I want to come. So I started to promote fertility, PMS, hormone imbalances, and they just started coming in droves. And I realized like when my copy was aligned with my vision, it all worked out. So my practice started really slow, like 2.5 days a week is all I had available. And within 2 years, I had a fully booked practice with a massive wait list.
Wow.
And so I really believe in niching down and just really speaking your truth because they will find you. Your people will find you. You just have to know what you're looking for.
That's so cool. I have a new grad joining our practice very soon, and I'm trying to be that supportive person, to be that guide. And it's not the easiest thing to like think back to your first few years when you're so far away. So it seems like really good advice. If you could give yourself like one piece of advice for that first couple of months, what would you tell yourself? Like, what is the advice that you think you would need?
Well, there's one piece of advice that I always tell my new grads now, and it's find your community. And I had to learn this the hard way on my own, thinking, in naturopathic medicine or in school, we do so much alone. We study alone, we sit through classes, we take our notes, we do everything alone. We're so used to being driven and successful on our own. And then when you get out, you think the same holds true, but it doesn't. We need a community, and we need to really lean on that community to find success. So what I learned early on is that aligning myself with what I call my wolf pack is where my skyrocketed practice just took off. So I met a few other practitioners and business owners really early on, and we started meeting monthly, and we gave each other a lot of cross referrals. So that wolf pack got me started. They were women in business that were at the same level I was. They were just starting their careers out. They wanted the referrals, and so did I. And we did complementary things. So I met with a dentist, a lawyer, and a personal trainer at the time. And it was so impactful that the four of us would just meet regularly and constantly cheerlead each other on. And so now I look back, and I do wish I knew it a tiny bit sooner, but I tell all my associates who come on in my clinic, go find your wolf pack and build your own community. You can't just sit in your room and post on Instagram. You have to get out there and actually meet folks in person. You have to get on podcasts. You have to get on webinars. They need to see you and your magnetic personality. They need to hear about how you heal people. And I think that's where it's different, a different world, certainly now 18 years ago, but the same rules apply. We've got to get out there and talk to people.
Oh, consider that stolen, Julie. My son's name is Wolf.
It's all yours.
So,
is it?
So yeah, my son's name is
Wolf. Well, you've got your wolf pack.
So we now have the wolf pack for new practitioners. And
you won't forget it.
For sure. Before the pandemic, I had this thing on Meetup going. So the Meetup app?
Yes.
Where we would sort of meet. So I tried to start one for my community, but I found it hard to find people. How did you find these was it 4 people? How did you find the 4 people?
I mean, to be honest, Facebook groups. That's where I found them. It was just local North Vancouver moms Facebook groups.
Right.
The moms, we gather and we find each other, and it worked. When I was a brand new grad, I did public talks constantly. So I used to speak at the running room, at Lululemon, anywhere that would have me. I would go to the running groups were my favorite place to find people. And I actually met one of the top chiropractors here in Vancouver at Lululemon at a running group in my first year of practice. And he and I had graduated at the same time, and we've been growing our clinics together since. And so that was a really powerful kind of side effect that I didn't think would come out of that group talk. I thought I was going to acquire patients, but I met a colleague. So it just goes to show you that you will never go wrong saying yes to an in-person opportunity.
For sure. Okay. Well, that's a good snippet right there. That's a good soundbite for a new grad. I really do think that. Tell us about the evolution into the practice that you run currently, that you're the founder of.
Yes. So Restoration Health Clinic is my second clinic. I founded 2 clinics now. I opened Restoration in 2015, so it's been 9 years now. And it was my dream come true clinic. So I wanted to have a clinic near my home that I could walk to. Yes. That was something I never thought I would achieve. And I wanted to build it based on the theme of community. So I got to build it from the ground up. It was literally a wide open room with really high ceilings and carpet. And I got to design it and put the walls up where I wanted. And so we don't have walls that separate the reception from the dispensary or from the lab or from the IV suite. We have a lot of open space. And so it allows for so much collaboration between the admin staff and the doctors and the patients all the time. And it's so wonderful. I got to design it exactly how I envisioned my practice would be. So I now have 10 naturopathic physicians working with me there in that clinic. And we just have such a beautiful team and culture, and our values are so aligned. I'm so happy with our team. And, you never know how something's going to go until you see it play out. But I can say truthfully now, since COVID, we've never been stronger. 2020 was really tough on us, and we came out of it so much stronger than before, so much more aligned. We have so many really cool things that we've done because of COVID that have just made us a better business and had a better patient experience. So I'm pretty proud of what we've built there.
That's really cool. You really should be. I mean, that's such a big team for one. And just knowing you personally, I can just sense that I bet the culture at the clinic is probably so great.
Thank you. Well, and it's not all me. It's certainly this team of mine that just shines through.
Right. So you've had all these years of owning clinics, and I'm sure that you've gathered so much information and learned about the business of running a practice so deeply over these years. And has that been what's inspired you to start this venture that's been going for the last few years? If people will hear the intro before we start, but most people who are tuning into the show will know that you're the founder and CEO of Ginger Desk, which is a service in just to be perfectly clear with everyone that I subscribe to. I'm a big fan of the business. And so I'd love to hear about how you enter into this world of VA support and clinic support and B2B work, and really social entrepreneurship is what I would call it, supporting the practitioners who were inspired by, who are doing this good work. Tell us about how all that began.
There are several different ways that I can describe this story, and I was just sitting here thinking, well, which story should I tell you? So the true story that I've been finally becoming open with over the past year, because it's been 4 years now, is that this business, Ginger Desk, so we're a virtual assistant company for health practitioners, it really came to life in 2020 when I finally acknowledged my own burnout. So in 2020, and it's cool, David, because you're a clinic owner, so you will get this. In 2020, it was incredibly difficult for those of us who owned brick and mortar businesses. It was clearly a health crisis, but it was also a business crisis at scale. And I watched as my own clinic closed for 3 months. And I personally, as a solo founder, had to carry the weight of our fixed expenses that were going through the roof. And I ended up opening my own virtual practice at that time to 6 days a week just to keep us afloat. So we physically closed the doors, and with rolling suitcases, my office manager, Jennifer, and I rolled our entire $50,000 clinic dispensary to Jennifer's house.
Oh my goodness.
We opened up an in-person dispensary in her basement suite here in North Van.
Yes.
And started doing porch pickups from her beautiful Heritage Homes porch. And then I just opened up shop and opened up my wait list and started seeing, 15 patients a day, 6 days a week, which, as you know, for an ND, 15 is a lot.
Yeah.
It was busy. They were, 30 to an hour consults. And I got really burnt out. And it took me a few months to really realize the depth of it, because I was just so entrenched in adrenaline. I couldn't even articulate to my colleagues how tough it was at that time, or even to my close friends. And I really started to ask myself, why am I doing this? What is it that I love about this profession? And what is it that I love about being a clinic owner? And I really realized at that time that I had to do something to change. I had to stop relying on myself to get through. And I needed to lean on community. I mean, back to my lesson from right out of school.
Yeah, the wolf pack.
The wolf pack. I needed to lean on community. And I started to watch as all my colleagues retreated from their brick and mortar practices. Many of them opened up their own virtual practices at home. They thought they could do it all alone. They were isolated. They were drowning in debt and trying to do their admin on their own. And so I thought, well, what if I could do something that I love, that doesn't burn me out, and that supports my community? And I did. So I started this little pilot project right here in Vancouver, and I invited 3 virtual assistants to join us. I trained them on all the systems that I'd been using in my own clinic for many years. And I opened up a wait list to 5 colleagues of mine. And I said, we're just doing this test, come join us. And it was so successful that in 3 months we had 5 raving fans. And we also had this massive wait list all across Canada.
Wow.
And then 5 months later, we had a massive wait list all across the US.
Incredible.
So I knew that I was onto something. And I loved it in the process. And I can honestly say that I was burnt out. I acknowledged my burnout. And it's not that I did less work, because I certainly worked more. It's just that the work shifted. I started to do the work that lit me up and I felt passionate about. And I love building systems and I love building community. And I realized that that's where my zone of genius is. And I really grieved leaving the patients behind. I really did. I truly did. And I miss my colleagues in the day-to-day, but I realized I can't do all of it at once. So I left my practice in May of 2021, just 6 months after we launched Ginger Desk. And it was a leap of faith. And that was 3 years ago. And so far, so good.
So good. Wow. Well, congratulations. What a journey. My goodness.
Thank you.
There's a lot to unpack here because this story is really, really inspiring to me. By the way, we actually purchased this clinic April 1st, 2020. So we started the day we had to close was the day we took over. And so just very similar to your story, you have a smarter story where you actually had a place where people come pick up. We were driving vitamins around the city. Like we were just like at the end of the day, we just get in the truck and we just start driving around. So silly. Oh
That's amazing. What an incredible delivery service. I mean, there was no traffic on the road.
There was
so
no
brilliant.
traffic. No, there was no traffic. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
So, this service of yours, part of the reason I really like it and part of the reason I think it really fits with the theme of the show is that it's so personalized to the practitioner. When we signed up, we realized that your VAs, your virtual assistants, have this enough general knowledge that they knew all of my systems already. I didn't need to teach them anything. They already knew it. And then they were able to individualize the work that they did for us. So sort of whatever we needed was how they created their schedule, but there was no instruction required. They already had all the tools. They already knew the systems, which was very cool and I think very unique for our profession. I assume all of that is intentional. Can you tell me about the development and the system process building that you've done for your business?
Absolutely. And it's so wonderful to hear you say these kind things. So thank you. It's been such a pleasure to support your practice as well. So it's interesting because we've created really clear systems for our VAs to work with. And what clinics get from us is this awesome customer service. So we can personalize certain parts of it, but the foundational systems are all very much the same per practice. So we come trained in your EMR, we come trained in your email system, your phone system. We can personalize scripts however you need in your voice. And that's what makes it, I think, really next level customer service. But just the fact that we're responding to patients in a really timely manner ends up making it feel more personal. And I think the intentionality of our response time and of just delivering that high quality service makes it feel like it's custom tailored to the patient, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Absolutely. For all the clinic owners out there, you know how important it is to have a really strong vibe when someone comes in. You want to have a good vibe in the clinic. You want that first interaction with the first person they see is your reception. You want to have a really good interaction there. Well, also, turns out nowadays you want to have someone who's very responsive to calls and emails. You want to have a team that is continuing that vibe virtually. And I feel like that's what you guys do.
That's it. And I think that people think that a 72-hour autoresponder might be appropriate if they can't get to their email, but that's not the day we live in. Patients really do expect a high level of customer service from us as private healthcare providers, and they want an immediate response. They don't expect a text back right away, but they certainly do expect a response in a couple hours. And it makes all the difference when we can get to them. It really makes or break the patient experience at your clinic. And it's interesting to me to see the different experiences that have happened in other clinics out there. And doctors are busy. Like, doctors don't have the time to be setting the foundations for their clinic and working on the systems. They're busy seeing patients and bringing in revenue. And don't I know that? So that's what I love about our service, is that we can then do that for you. We can show you our systems that work, or we can work within the Epic systems that you've already got laid out.
Definitely. One thing I've learned about how to optimize my systems through your team members. They've taught me how to better improve my workflow. So that's been a huge value. Here's what other clinics do to make this a little more effective. That's been very helpful for me. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's great to hear. It's nice to know what other clinics are doing, right? Like it's really nice to, again, lean on your community, see what works. Don't have to do it alone.
Definitely. What type of practitioners are typical subscribers to your service?
Well, what started out as a naturopathic support service for my fellow colleagues has grown so quickly into working with all allied health providers. So we work in private practice with physios, chiros, acupuncturists. We work with speech language pathologists and even counselors and psychologists. We work with a lot of functional MDs and, of course, NDs.
Nice. Oh, wow. Cool. What a lineup. So you've got a huge population to draw from there. That's really, really great.
Well, what we've realized is that even if practitioners, think that they're so different from another discipline, their admin needs are essentially almost the same.
Yeah.
There's so much we can do. We're supporting patients either way you look at it.
What's the pathway like when someone signs up for Ginger Desk? What are the first sort of like week or two feel like? What steps do we have to go through?
So our first 2 weeks is spent in onboarding. So folks meet with us on a discovery call. We find out the nuances of their practice. We want to know about how their practice is growing. Maybe they're adding second locations. Maybe they're adding new associates. We want to hear about their goals practice-wise. And then we'll put them into our onboarding department. And that's where we match them with their new dedicated VA. We also match them to a virtual office manager. And the purpose of that person is they're there to oversee everything the VA does. They're there to make sure the VA is happy, manage performance, and handle payroll so that our clients don't have to do that. So we are there to totally make sure that that team member is taken care of. And then we send them something called a Design Your Desk package. And we prompt our practitioners with everything we need to know to run their practice. So often we work with folks who have everything in their head and they know exactly how to run their front desk, but it's never been documented. And so we are totally used to that. We don't require people to have office manuals all laid out perfectly. So that's what we're here for. Yeah. So we'll prompt them with what we need to know. We make it really easy. And then once we get all of that back, our team can study up on how to best serve them. Then we meet on a 2-hour kickoff call, and that's where we hammer out all the workflows. So we talk directly with the practitioner about how we're going to communicate with them when an initial patient comes in, or handle lab results, or handle the dispensary items for sale. So there's different workflows that every practice will require, and we make sure that we've got that down before we go live with patients. So it's really a comprehensive research stage so that we can really hit the ground running and operate that clinic at the highest level possible.
Vitamin Lab revolutionizes personalized supplements, empowering health practitioners to create tailored supplement formulations that address each patient's unique needs. Bring personalized health to your practice and choose from over 200 professional-grade ingredients to create vitamin formulas that improve patient adherence and result in tangible outcomes. All ingredients are sourced from the world's most trusted suppliers, and Vitamin Lab provides hands-on support to help you formulate and launch personalization to your patients. Say hello to a new era of personalized supplement solutions. Go to getvitaminlab.com/personalized to save $100 off your first formula.
Nice. I love also that we can iterate as we go. So we've had changes to our practice, of course, as all practices do, and our needs have changed. So we have our VA supporting us with different things, for example. And that's been helpful. So we have these opportunities for 15 minutes every month to check in, to see if this is still what we need or what's best going to support the practice going forward. So I have this really cool thing where I've learned a bunch. It cleans up a bunch of my systems. So we don't have a big accounts receivable, for example. Our VA team helps us with any outstanding billing. We have 4 practitioners per day and only 1 person in the office here. And then answering missed calls. So the callbacks have been very valuable for us. In addition to that, one really cool thing that we do with our VA team is we have a scorecard. that tracks kind of how our practice is doing and where we should be spending our time and investing our marketing dollars. And our VA is actually in charge of filling in the scorecard so we can see exactly what's happening and what's changing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I love what you're saying, because those client recalls and then that scorecard, it's a return on investment, right? It's not an expense. And I talk all the time to clients about that. This person, this new team member you're adding shouldn't be thought of as just part of your overhead. This is really a return on investment and should drive revenue for the clinic.
Love it. Love it. Now we're making a big leap where we're going to be moving to adding a second location where there will be no in-person receptionist. We'll be relying strictly on Ginger Desk.
Huge congrats to you. That's so exciting.
Yeah, so it'll be very cool. So we have this extra thing that's happening where it's just the practitioners, and Ginger Desk will be the main support. So thank you for that. Looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Oh, we're so excited to support you with that.
You mentioned something when you told your story. You mentioned about burnout and how you needed something to lift you up. I'd love to hear about your thoughts on clinician burnout, how it affected you, and how you got out of it.
Oh gosh, yes. So I was in denial for many months that I was burnt out. And I realized in 2020, so probably in the summer of 2020, after all my 6 days of virtual care, that the burnout showed up in 2020, but it didn't start there. The burnout happened or began much before. And it was my personality and my approach to life of, I'm an only child. And I thought I can do it all on my own. I've always relied on myself. I've always, when I've worked hard, I've achieved success. So this should be no different. But that's not the case in burnout. And so I likely got burnt out when I started my clinic, my second clinic, and had 2 babies all at the same time.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was a lot of time, and I didn't take proper parental leaves. And I look back now, and I do wish I took more time with my kids. I've since healed all of that, spent lots of time with my kids, but it was too much. And I always say to women now who are going on parental leave, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. Right. And I wish I knew that back then, but I was so driven to build this clinic, and also so driven to just get through, have the babies at the time I wanted to have them. It was something I was ticking off my list. So burnout probably started for me around 8 years ago, and 10 years ago, if we're honest.
It all comes out on this show.
This is like
no, it's 12. No, it's 14. No.
Really, childhood. So what I started to do in the summer of 2020 was taking long walks in the forest. And it sounds very naturopathic and very cliche of me, but it's what I did. I would talk to the trees. I would have soul connection with myself and asking myself deep questions. What do I really want to be doing right now? Because it was all on the line for me. I could have lost my home. I could have lost my clinic. It was a little bit of luck that got me through, to be honest. I now look at other clinic owners who did declare bankruptcy and did collapse their clinics at the time, and I don't know that I'm all that different from them. It just ended up going a different way for me for whatever reason. And I think the forest saved me. And I think that my motivation to do less is really what saved me as well. I stopped doing everything on my own. I reduced my clinic hours. I started to do more of what I loved. I was snuggling my dog more. I was playing with my kids more. I was taking more time, not to exercise rigorously, but to walk and to get fresh air and to get sunlight and to cold plunge. And I started to just do less, but in a more intentional way. And it does sound a little bit cheesy because it's so naturopathic to say those things. But I realized that by doing less, it wasn't just that my energy was spent differently. It was that I actually left more space on the table for other people to come in and help. And I couldn't have launched a new company if I hadn't have done that. And it's cool how you say that these systems, that you have these really great VAs that are, suggesting new ways of doing things for you. And I feel that way every day about our team. And I think it's so awesome to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you in certain areas and who love doing things that way. I don't love doing everything in my life. And I started to really rely on certain team members to help out. And that's really been the secret to me accomplishing everything that I've accomplished. It's all about the team. It's not all on me at all.
Now, did the trees tell you that? Because every time I go to Lynn Valley, I feel like they talk to me too. I know you said you were talking to them, but I think they talk to me. That made them say something different about me.
They do. The trees have all the answers. And I think just finally quieting the monkey mind, and it just became clear to me. I love our profession so, so deeply. And I just needed to step back for a moment to see how I can best serve. And now I know very, very clearly that building community is my zone of genius, and I'm rolling with that for now.
Mm-hmm. I see you in that role. That's exactly where you should be. That's so cool. Now,
thank you.
A lot of people, when I was graduating naturopathic school, I was told by practitioners and naturopathic physicians who I respected that I should work 4 days a week, 6 hours a day, and just kind of do that forever. And I didn't listen. Of course, I worked like 7 days a week as much as possible and just kind of tried to do everything to build a practice. And now I'm 10 years in, so I'm still 2 years away from when you hit full burnout. But it's probably coming. It's probably coming. So, but what would you tell someone who's just getting started who really does feel like they need to work every single day, all day, in order to build the practice in the first couple of years?
Oh, it's interesting because we get so much advice from practitioners that we really admire. And you just want to be careful with who you're getting advice from. Like, are your values aligned, for one thing, right? Like you and I have talked about being parents. I mean, you want to make sure that that person who's telling you to work more, do they have children? Or if they have children, do they have goals of spending time with their children? And I think we need to be clear that it's not just values alignment, but it's also the day-to-day tasks that have to bring you joy. And we have these grand aspirations of NDs of like healing the world and building our empires. But you have to actually like the individual tasks that happen moment by moment, or you will get burnt out. And for me, it was the patient care that was burning me out, and managing all the things that came along with the clinic at the same time. And I really realized that like I needed to step back and work more with the practitioners. For me, that was what really lit me up. I often tell practitioners, like, make a list of all the things you do in the day and then put a star beside the ones that you love doing. Like if you hate laundry and you hate meal prep, you can outsource for those things. And if you don't and you keep doing them because you think you are the only one that can do those and you are the best at it, you're going to burn out.
Definitely. That's a really good way of putting it, making a list. Like I've been trying to think about, and I know we've talked about it on this show a few times, going back to your childhood, like what brought you joy when you were a kid?
Yes.
And how could you integrate some of that joy into your current life now? But making a list of what brings you joy is another strategy because, of course, my grandmother told me to never stop playing basketball. Of course, as soon as I became an adult, I stopped playing basketball. But now I'm like, okay, wait, how does that translate into being an adult? Well, I actually get to work with basketball players. So I get to be kind of in the sport. You know what I mean? And that's what brings me joy. But I had to really like think back of how can this be applied to an adult's life?
That's awesome. And because it still implies a little bit of play. Like, right, you get to enjoy your conversations with them and hearing about their time playing basketball. I love that.
Definitely.
And I think it's stuff like this, like, I think you're such a community builder as well, David. And I think, doing podcasts, and I love writing. When I'm writing blog posts, and it sounds so bland, but it really just fuels me. And I love the creativity aspect of that. So play and creativity, certainly they really do support the balance of our work as practitioners.
Definitely agree with that. One thing I wanted to ask you about was business education. How did you get so good at all of this? where did your skills come from? That's the first question. Like, what are you doing for continuing education in this new realm as a leader of your organization? That's the first one. And then the second question really is to build onto that. Do you see yourself as a social entrepreneur? And when you hear that term, what does that really mean for you?
I love that you use that term. So first, I'll start with the education piece. I have no formal business education, but I'm a huge believer in business coaching and business advice, getting business advice. So I had a business coach, pretty much straight out of naturopathic school. And then you grow with your business coach until you have kind of maxed out and maybe you're on a different level now. And then I'd find a new coach. So I always invest in business coaches, sometimes 2 at a time. And that might sound wild to some who see it as such a huge expense, but for me, it's been absolutely game changing. And I have a big community of women founders and women business owners that I am constantly curious about. I'm asking them questions about how they got there, what they do, and constantly. And I have a lot of really great advisors. And in the last 5 years, and then throughout my journey with Ginger Desk, I have relied on several different really amazing advisors who have a lot more experience than I do. And that's changed the game for me immensely. Being a doctor and starting a company, there's a lot we have to learn. I'm great at running a team. I'm great at growing a team. I'm great at building community, but I know my limits. And I know that I needed an advisor for financials. I needed an advisor for marketing. And I've just leaned on different professionals along the way.
It can feel like such a big leap.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it since the start. And I know that a lot of practitioners out there who maybe are a decade in like me have not even considered that, not even thought that there may be someone out there who could support you and has done this before. Like, where did you find your advisors? How did you get tuned into, sort of what you needed at the time? Can you tell me a little bit about the pathway?
Yes. And I wish that the advisors that exist today were around when I first graduated. I will certainly say that. And no affiliation, but Clinician Business Labs and Megan Walker, Jordan Robertson with her business Confident Clinician, those 2 companies, I've watched them change the game for my associates. And I really wish they were around 18 years ago when I was starting out, because that's just an automatic, amazing place to go. It's really easy access. I had to find my coaches in really curious places. And I had to ask around to friends and colleagues, like, who are you using? And how are you finding success? And I also joined a lot of different groups. So the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs here in BC was especially supportive. I did their e-series program in 2018. I also joined New Ventures BC, and we won Women-Led Venture of the Year in 2023.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Through New Ventures, but their program really changed everything for me. The advice I got through their mentors was absolutely incredible. And they're not just MBAs, like these are folks who have built and sold multiple businesses over the last, 30 years. So they were incredible to learn from. And my advice for new docs is ask around. And if you see someone doing what you want to do, go talk to them. Be really polite. Don't ask them to pick their brain, but ask them if you can take them for a coffee or if you can buy them lunch. Offer something in return and be really gracious about it and let them know why you respect them and make sure they're clear on what you want to gain from the conversation. But I'm open with all the docs that I talk to and all the new grads that come out of Boucher and CCNM. I always say to them, reach out anytime. I'm totally here for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Reach out anytime and just ask me, because we don't have to go it alone.
Right. Well, even just watching this episode, I think is basically like having a coffee with you. Now, you could still benefit from getting a little extra coffee once in a while. So if you're out there, I just heard an invite. But no, thank you. That's like just that last little snippet alone is going to be valuable to so many people. I'm absolutely sure of that. The second piece of this question really is about social entrepreneurship, and I'd love to hear about your mission as a leader and what you're trying to achieve and how you sort of define the role of Ginger Desk.
So we have on the front face, Ginger Desk supports health practitioners. And I started Ginger Desk because I really wanted to serve my colleagues. That was certainly my number one goal. But my mission has grown and evolved, just like my practice niche did in the last few years. So what started as this incredible drive to support my fellow colleagues has turned into this bigger goal to build jobs and support women as they grow their careers from home. So we hire women and women identifying folks to work remotely as virtual assistants for us. We employ them full time. We invite them into our community. We nurture them, and our community is so strong. So we have 60 employees now here at Ginger Desk. Wow. And it's been the honor of my lifetime to build this community. And it has evolved into something that is beyond me now. Like it's got its own culture, its own values. And it's so cool to see these women working together to support practitioners. So they share resources amongst each other. They give advice. They post photos on our group chat of their children's Halloween costumes, of their pets, of everything going on, of meal prep, of the crocheted projects they're making. It's just become this really cool community that it started as one thing, and I'm so proud to watch it have its own purpose. And so I get to build jobs for women, and we get to provide access to jobs in remote communities. So people don't have to live in a big center to have a job with us, which is really cool. And we provide all their training. So we have a full 1-month training program that we put VAs through before they're matched with a practitioner. And it's just been so special. We have a flip side impact, and it's also the impact on patients. And I don't talk a lot about that, but we've just started to, because we've got the data now to support it. But we have, through our surveys, we have found that we have achieved 75% less stress levels in patients when their practitioners start with Ginger Desk for at least 1 month. And I'm so incredibly proud of that. So we're impacting women, we're impacting practitioners, but now we're also showing the impact on patient care.
Oh, so cool. What a mission.
Thank you.
I love it so much. It's such a cool business. Congratulations. And what a time for it too. Coming out of the pandemic, people need your service, and you provide a great one. This is so
Thank
cool.
you.
In the spirit of personalization, we'd love to know one thing about you that most people don't know. Can you tell us something unique about yourself?
Oh, goodness. I feel like I've bared my soul here, David.
You really have. You talk to the trees.
I talk to the trees. I'm an only child. I dealt with asbestos. My goodness.
Absolutely.
I mean, honestly, my story about burnout is probably my best kept secret that until this year, I haven't yet really shared publicly. And that's really it, is that burnout affects the most of us. You know, we can put on a smile and we can show all the signs of success, but underlying it all, be careful when your friends isolate themselves, when your colleagues seem to be doing it all alone, because that was certainly the danger for me.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Where can the people watching the show connect with you?
So hello@gingerdesk.com. That is our main front-facing email at Ginger Desk, and I'm personally in that inbox. So I would love for folks to reach out that way. That's also how you set up a discovery call with us and with my team, but I'm personally in there. So I will respond to everyone who mentions that they heard about us on this podcast.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for spending your time. We get so much out of the chat today. I'm so grateful for all of your insight and especially just really to hear about how your career has evolved and how you found this real sweet spot that's doing such good for society. So thank you so much.
Thank you, David. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Talk again soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's discussion. What about today's podcast resonated with you? Be sure to tag at Dr. David Dizer and at Get Vitamin Lab. If you're learning from and enjoying this podcast, please let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And don't forget to leave us a review. It's the best way to support our podcast, and it helps others find us. To learn more or book a demo to explore what personalization could do for your practice, please go to www.getvitaminlab.com/personalized.